Hi friends, today I actually wanted to discuss. This was a request from quite a few people, to be honest. Uh, this request was primarily how to define the compatibility between couples. Very prevalent issue, to be honest, and that is where I think even the new way of looking at horoscope does play a very important part. Might that is probably the crux why we say we need to probably everything develops or evolves over a period of time, right? Same ways with astrology as well, right? We had certain principles, certain traditional way of looking at horoscopes, right? In certain things which is still relevant, to be honest, in certain things we need to probably evolve over a period of time. This is one aspect where I think the ancient astrology probably has evolved anyways, but it has to be interpreted in a slightly different way of looking at horoscopes, right? Why I'm saying this? In India, if I take an example of India, right, you'll find two kind of families. One which is traditional families, right, and second which is a bit modern families where people have started going up, they've started working, and their value system probably have changed a bit, to be honest. Now, in terms of traditional families, I'll say the original thought process of ancient astrology does work to a large extent. I'll say 70-80% still works. 20% probably they'll change over a period of time, right? But in the modern context, the way we look at horoscopes is quite different, to be honest, right? I'll tell you why, and I'll give you one example where probably we'll be able to look at those, right? I'm saying the traditional value system, the primary thing was the male has to be a bread earner, right? The woman has to take care of the family. Kids were surely important, right? What was the ancient astrology? You know, the divorce was something which was never in their mind because this never used to happen, right? Extramarital used to happen, but very limited, right? So nobody used to put that kind of stress into those lifestyles, right? Now, if I look at the other side, the modern context, right? In modern context, I guess the most important thing is, to be honest, is the compatibility, the wavelength of the couple should match, right? That is one thing. Um, Divorce, I'll say, is not divorce is something which is important because we have seen it, right? So there are certain combinations which depicts divorce, which we can take up later. Another one is the emotional compatibility. The emotion should flow from one person to another, right? That is again becomes extremely important, right? Because everybody has that kind of lifestyle, right? So they need support at different point of time. Sex obviously becomes a very important component, to be honest. Kids may not be that they're important, but I'm not sure whether it's like the same importance which a traditional family has. The modern family may not have the same because if both are working, right, a lot of times they think that this may not be the right step or probably kind of stuff, right? So important for me is I actually wanted to focus on the first one, which is the modern way of looking at the relationship compatibility, right? A few things which I just want to say because there are certain planets which does impact the relationship to an extent. The issues which is with respect to say divorce or I'll say a extramarital affair or something, right? We'll take up in the subsequent video. In this video, we'll just focus on the compatibility part of it, right? How does one look at the compatibility? So what I will do is I'll just share two charts, right? Which is from different people who are actually maybe like random charts, and I'll show you how things move from one person to another, right? 1 minute, I'll just share the charts and let's start look at the charts. This is one chart, okay? Now, this is a chart of a male, practically, right? So what we need to do is there are certain planets in the horoscope which defines certain rules, right? Suppose emotions has to be normally checked by moon, right? If I say luxury, right? Luxury is normally checked by Venus, right? If I say knowledge, the vision or knowledge, that is normally looked after by Jupiter. If I say derivation of sex life, that is primarily, again, one of the major karkas is Mars and the combination of Venus as well, right? In terms of discipline, structure, process, Saturn is the karka. I'll say in terms of, because Sun is basically the Atma, right? The inner soul, to be honest. So if it is the compatibility with respect to Sun, that is another thing which we need to look at, right? So when we talk about, say, I'll say we have defined 5 parameters, right? So practically, if you want to see the position of soul, we look at Sun, if emotions, Moon, if it is vision, knowledge, Jupiter, In terms of luxuries, Venus. In terms of sex life, Mars. In terms of discipline, process, structures, it is Saturn. Mercury, in terms of I'll say Mercury is basically a prince, right? So prince always needs a guidance, okay? And Mercury in certain things is basically a depictor of extramarital affair as well, to be honest, right? In terms of multiplicity of partners. So that may not be part of the compatibility, but yeah, broadly it should be, right? Now, how should we look at this? Right? The primary reason why, primary logic which we should understand, right? Say, first thing, let's talk about emotions, okay? Now, generally speaking, how should we see emotions is whether emotions are flowing from the male to the female, right? Or they are flowing from female to the male. How do we see that? Now, first thing which we need to see is where the moon is placed in the chart of the man. In this particular chart, say it is placed in Cancer. Cancer is the fourth house, right? We will not look at the fourth house. What we will look at is the Rashi in which moon is placed. That is extremely important, right? So now, if we look at the other chart, suppose anybody will pick up this chart, where say where moon is placed in the Aries nakshatra, right? So the emotions will, suppose if we assume that emotions normally flow from male to female, right? Or maybe other way around, which is female to male. Because my personal understanding, if somebody tells me, I'll say emotions actually flows from female to male. So in this horoscope, this is the horoscope of a girl. The moon is placed in Rashi 1, which is Aries. So emotions are actually flowing from Aries to Cancer. So the distance is around 4 Rashis in between. Taurus, Gemini, and then Cancer comes, right? So it says that the closer the distance between both, right? Closer is the compatibility with respect to emotional content. Okay, so if my moon is in, the girl's moon is in Aries and boy's moon is in, say, Taurus, I'll say emotional compatibility is probably very good. And if it is in the same Rashi, I'll say both are very emotionally connected kind of people, right? And if it is, say, placed in 12th house, is the sun, the guy's moon is in 12th house, which is Pisces, right? I'll say emotional content is something which is far. Or we can say other way around, right? The emotional content is something which is the emotions. If you say start, because you need to always start from number 1, never start from 12. Okay, so the first is one which comes first, so we'll start it from first to 12th, right? So we can say they are distinct apart in terms of emotional compatibility, right? So that becomes a one negative perspective. Now, second, if you want to say look at Mars, the girl's Mars depicts the sex life technically. So Mars for girl is placed in Scorpio, and for guy, I'll say it is placed in Taurus, right? So the guy is 2, and Mars for the girl is 8. So it's just 2-8 combination, which is 2 and 7. Okay. So the sex life or the initiative for the sex life will be derived by the guy to the girl, but the distance is still pretty distant. It's like 6-7 points away, right? So that compatibility, personally, is not very great. Okay. Now, same way we can look at, say, your sun, which is Atma. The guy's sun is in Leo, and girl's sun was in Capricorn, right? Again, an issue because the distance is pretty large, which is 6 points. So, primary thing which I wanted to focus is you need to see the karka for that activity. My understanding, there are 5 activities which are important, to be honest, in the current context. So we need to see the distance of the basic planet because emotions flow from girl to male. Sex probably initiative will flow from male to female. Atma, independent, can be male, female, both, right? So that is the way we need to look at. If you look at the position of Jupiter, vision in this context, to be honest, even a girl can be a visionary and the guy can be a visionary. So which is again a neutral. Venus, again, I'll say is a bit neutral kind of star, right? So that is the way to look at. I'll not give too much importance to Ketu and Rahu in this reason because Ketu and Rahu ultimately is to be controlled by some planet if they have to give a good result. Otherwise, normally if it is Rahu dominated horoscopes, things will get over because Rahu's basic nature is obsession, right? Dominance, I'll not say vagueness, but very feeble in actions, but very strong in thinking, right? In terms of imagination, creativity, right? Ketu, on the other hand, is a person who always need a direction, right? So it depends again on the relationship. If Rahu or Ketu are dominating the horoscope, then a lot of combinations actually go haywire because they are uncontrolled energy, which can impact a lot of planets, right? But a lot of times this become positive as well, because if ultimately Rahu is controlled by some planet, then Rahu energy can be manifest into the positive side as well. So my basic understanding, right, in the current context, when we look at compatibility between male and female, right, we'll see a lot of articles which is sun sign, moon sign, X, Y, Z. They do impact. I don't deny that. But in terms of accuracy, this is probably what I have assumed. I have not assumed actually, because a lot of people have actually discussed this as a possibility, right? But what my understanding is, this probably gives a lot of compatibility, Ashtagun Milan, which we used to say in ancient astrology, right? This is a bit more purified form of that combination, right? Same way, this is one Rashi which depicts the compatibility. Now, if we want to look at, say, the pregnancy one, right, whether they're going to have kid or not, right, then we should look at the fifth house lord. Now, who's the fifth house lord in this particular horoscope? Which is Sun, right? And second side, we need to see the fifth house lord of the girl chart, right? In which my understanding was Scorpio, right? Mars. Sun and Mars, good compatible friends, right? So in terms of compatibility for kids, good compatibility, right? So a lot of things are there, but primary thing, the basic purpose was to see the compatibility in a slightly different context. So that is my take how the compatibility in the current astrological context should evolve. If the family is which is more towards the modern family, when both husband and wife are working, right? So things, a lot of value system is quite different, to be honest. But traditional families, the more importance will be given to factors like your kids and X and Y and Z, because the percentage of divorces probably, right? I'm not sure, but my understanding, percentage of divorces will be pretty low in traditional families and probably high in the family which is more proactive and kind of stuff, right? Thanks a lot. So that was my limited take. I'll take up 2 or 3 videos more on this. One, I personally will take the probability of extramarital affairs. That is one thing which I will take up. Second chapter which I should, which I am thinking about, is a foreign husband or a foreign wife. That is another thing which I want to take up in this. And third, a deeper analysis into compatibility, right? Where I'll say, where I'll show what is the impact of Rahu and Ketu on the personal life of people, right? These are 3 things which I want to discuss. I'll take it one by one. And let's probably next time, next week, we'll go for the foreign or the Indian spouse, right? That is one of the important topics, right? Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.